Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome all of you for today's Srimad Bhagavatam session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitina Mine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 4, The Appearance of Sri Narada. Text 21. Tatra Rigvedadhara Pailaha Samago Jaiminih Kavihi Vaishampayana Evaiko Nishnato Yajusham Uta. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Vishwaguru Abhay Charana Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Srila Sutta Goswami continued. After the Vedas were divided into 4 divisions, Paila Rishi became the professor of the Rig Veda, Jaimini the professor of the Sama Veda, and Vaishampayana alone became glorified by the Yajur Veda. Purport. The different Vedas were entrusted to different learned scholars for development in various ways. Text 22. Atharvangirasam asit sumantur daruno munihi itihasa purananam pitame romaharshanaha. Translation. The Sumantu Muni, Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with the Atharva Veda, and my father, Romaharshana, was entrusted with the Puranas and historical record. Purport. In the Shruti mantras also it is stated that Angira Muni, who strictly followed the rigid principles of the Atharva Vedas, was the leader of the followers of the Atharva Vedas. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So yesterday we saw that while contemplating upon the welfare of the people of the degraded age of Kali Yuga, Veda Vyasa or Vyasa Deva, also known as Badarayana and Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, he actually divided the one original Veda into 4. And he also compiled the Puranas, which are nothing but historical facts and narrations of various histories of different periods of time which happened at different places in the universe. And they're all called as Panchama Veda, the Puranas. Now, in these 2 verses that we just now read, it is described how Vyasadeva, after dividing the Vedas into 4, he entrusted each of his disciples with different Vedas so that they can propagate the Vedas in their parampara. So here it is said, Tatra Rug Veda Dharaha Pailaha. Rigveda was given to one of his disciples called Paila Rishi. So Paila Rishi, his mention comes later on in the same first canto of Bhagavatam when Bhishma Deva passed away in the presence of Lord Krishna when he gave up his body. Many personalities had come there to witness the great event, and Paila Rishi was also one of the assembled sages who had come there. So this Paila Rishi is a is one of the prominent disciples of Srila Vyasadeva, and Srila Vyasadeva gave him the responsibility of studying Rigveda and also ensuring that the Rigveda knowledge is passed down through his disciples and grand disciples in the Parampara system. Samago Jaimini Kavihi. The Samaveda was given to the great learned, highly qualified sage Jaimini Rishi. So Jaimini is also one of the prominent disciples of Srila Vyasadeva. He was given in charge of Samaveda. So Jaimini Rishi is also one of the six prominent philosophers of Vedic understanding of ancient India. So these are called Shad Darshanas, six philosophical schools. And Jaimini Rishi, he is in charge of, or he propagated the philosophy of Karma Mimamsa school, Karma Mimamsa Siddhanta, the philosophy of ritualistic performances. So according to Jaimini philosophy, Jaimini's Karma Mimamsa philosophy, one has to engage in fruitive activities, rituals recommended in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedic scriptures. And he argued that this ritual performance can enable one to attain the highest perfection. So that is about Jaimini Rishi. So Jaimini, he was a disciple of Vyasadeva and he was entrusted with the Samaveda propagation, the preaching of Samaveda in the Parampara system. Then it is said, Vaishampayana evaiko nishnato yajusham uta. Vaishampayana Rishi, another disciple of Srila Vyasadeva, he was Nishnataha, well versed in Yajusham, in the Yajurveda. So Vaishampayana Rishi was entrusted with Yajurveda and he became an expert in Yajurveda and he propagated the Yajurveda. This Vaishampayana Rishi is also a very important personality, being a disciple of Vyasadeva. It was Vaishampayana Rishi who actually spoke the Mahabharata for the first time. So therefore, he, during the Sarpa Yajna of Janamejaya Maharaja, Janamejaya Maharaja was the son of Maharaj Parikshit, and he performed a Sarpa Yajna. He wanted to avenge the death of his father because his father Parikshit Maharaj was killed because of the snake bite and of Takshaka. Takshaka was the serpent who actually killed or who caused the death of Parikshit Maharaj. So to avenge his father's death, Janamejaya Maharaja, he performed the Satra, the Yajna, to kill all the serpents in the entire universe. And another great sage called Astika Rishi, he came and he instructed Janamejaya Maharaj to stop the Sarpa Yajna. So Astika Rishi, in Mahabharata, a chapter is dedicated to him, Astika Parva. There it comes that Astika Rishi comes and stops the Janamejaya Maharaja's snake sacrifice. So during that time, when the snake sacrifice was being performed, Vaishampayana Rishi, the sage of the disciple of Vyasadeva, he narrated the entire Mahabharata for the first time to Maharaj Janamejaya. So Janamejaya wanted to know about the various incidents that led to the great battle of Kurukshetra, and Vyasadeva had compiled or composed the poetry, the epic Mahabharata. So Vaishampayana Rishi, he recited the entire Mahabharata during the snake sacrifice performed by Maharaj Janamejaya. So here it is mentioned that Vaishampayana Rishi, he was expert in the subject matter of Yajurveda. So Prabhupada says different Vedas were entrusted to different learned scholars for development in various ways. So once these different sages took charge of these different Vedas, these Vedas were further subdivided into multiple sections by all these different stages so that the knowledge can be properly classified and studied in detail, in depth by the students and by the great scholars. Now, the greatness of our Indian civilization is that is the parampara system. The Vedas were never originally put down in writing. They were always propagated through through the recitation process. The guru would actually recite the Vedas, and the disciples would hear them, repeat them again and again, and they would memorize the mantras. So, in this way, the Vedic knowledge was made sure that it was continued. So, this is also an advantage because if the Vedas were simply written down in books, and let's say some other civilization, they would come attack, and they would attack this Vedic civilization. Then they would actually burn all the books, all the literature, and then the knowledge would have been lost. But since it was mandatory for the disciples to memorize all these Vedas and by heart and keep them in memory, the knowledge was passed down through the parampara system, and this was remaining. This was being propagated in that way. So the Vedas are known as Apaurusheya Grantha. Grantha means literature, book, and Apaurusheya means that which was not written by ordinary human beings. It is coming from, it is revealed directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said, Vedo Narayana Sakshat. So the breath of Lord Narayana, the Supreme Lord Krishna, have come in the form of Vedas. And the root word for Veda is with dhatu. Vid means to know. So Vedas means book of knowledge. These are books of knowledge. And in fact, it is mentioned in the very beginning of Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna is the origin of these Vedas, and the first recipient of these Vedas was Lord Brahma himself. So it is said, Tene Brahma Hrudaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Surayaha. So Lord Brahma, being the first created being within this material world, he received this Vedic knowledge directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead from within his heart. And through the parampara system, the Vedic knowledge has been coming down. And one more important thing to note is there are two ways of acquiring knowledge, as Srila Prabhupada explains. One is called Aroha Pantha, the other one is called Avaroha Pantha. Pantha means the path or the system. So Aroha Pantha means ascending path, ascending process. That means we try to use our senses, our observations, our hypothesis, try to do research and try to find out the truth by ourselves. That is called Aroha Pantha, ascending process. Whereas Avaroha Pantha means we do not depend on our limited senses, but we receive the knowledge from the superior authority. And here the supreme authority is the Lord Himself. So the Vedic knowledge is said to be the supreme authority. And when it is received from the proper disciplic succession, you can be 100% sure that the knowledge that you have gained is bona fide, it is factual. So this is our descending process or Avaroha Pantha. So we in Krishna consciousness, we follow the Avaroha Pantha by receiving this Vedic knowledge through the Parampara system from the spiritual master who is belonging to the bona fide Parampara system. This is the original system set up by the Lord Himself. The Lord did not leave the entire creation, the purpose of creation, for the speculation of imperfect people like us. He did not say, you figure it out yourself through your ascending process. No. The Lord said that, you know, we are all very limited. We have imperfections, all the living entities. Therefore, if we try to speculate, experiment, and observe and figure out knowledge, that knowledge won't be perfect. Therefore, the Lord, knowing this very well, He created the Vedas. He gave the Vedas to Lord Brahma. And through the Parampara system, the knowledge has been coming down. So this is called Avaroha Pantha, descending process. And Vedic knowledge is infallible, it is perfect. So Prabhupada gives various examples. The Vedas, the Vedic literature say that if you come in contact with the stool of any animal, your body becomes impure and you're supposed to take bath immediately. But the same Vedas also tell us that cow dung is very pure. In all ritualistic ceremonies, cow dung is used as a purificatory agent. So it may appear to be contradictory. What is the stool is impure, Vedas are saying, but cow dung is pure. So we have to accept this because it is Veda Vakya. Veda Vakya means that which can never be false, that which is true always. Directly the instruction given by the Lord Himself. So on the basis of the Veda Vakya, if we accept this, then our knowledge is perfect. So even according to modern science, cow dung and cow urine have many antiseptic properties. So therefore, the Vedic knowledge is pure. It is perfect. Another example Prabhupada gives, if you touch the bones of any animals, that is also impure. You have to take bath. You have to undergo purification. But conch shell, which is actually like the bone or the exoskeleton of certain mollusks which live in the ocean. So this conch shell is said to be very purifying. The sound produced by the conch shell is in fact equated with the Omkara, very, very purifying. So there is an exception for this. So the same Vedas say bone of an animal is impure, but the conch shell is very pure. It is used in performing Abhisheka to the Lord, to the deity in the temple. It is also used to produce the transcendental sound, Omkara. So therefore, what we accept from the Vedas, that is perfect knowledge. So we don't have to speculate, we don't have to research, we don't have to brainstorm to figure out who are we, who is God, what is the purpose of this material world, what is the purpose of our life. We don't have to worry about all these things. All these are already present in the Vedic scriptures. And all that we have to do is receive this Vedic knowledge from a bona fide Acharya who belongs to a proper Parampara system. Then you can be rest assured that you have the perfect knowledge. And another important thing is all the Vedic knowledge, all the Vedas, Upanishads, etc., all of the Vedic scriptures, they present mainly three important points, three important divisions of knowledge, right? So the first one is called Sambandha Jnana, knowledge pertaining to our relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Lord. That is called Sambandha Jnana. And the second branch of knowledge is called Abhidheya Jnana, the knowledge which helps us to follow the right process by which we can become established in our relationship with the Supreme Lord. The knowledge pertaining to the process of Bhakti Yoga is called Abhidheya Jnana. And the third branch of knowledge is called as it is the highest perfection, Sambandha, Abhidheya, and the third one is called Prayojana Jnana. Prayojana means the ultimate perfection of which can be attained through the process as explained in the Abhidheya. Prayojana means the ultimate perfection. What is the ultimate perfection of the living entities? It is to become re-established in loving service to the Supreme Lord, to attain pure love of Krishna. That is the Prayojana Jnana. So, all the Vedas, all the four Vedas, Upanishads, the Puranas, Upapuranas, and the Samhitas, the Sutras, the epics, Itihasas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam, all of these talk about these three types of knowledge. Sambandha Jnana, what is our relationship with the Lord? Abhidheya Jnana, what process should we follow to become established in that relationship, in the constitutional position? And Prayojana Jnana, what is that ultimate perfection that can be achieved by following the process of Bhakti Yoga? So these are the things which are actually explained in the Vedas and Upanishads. In text 22, which we already read, it is said, Suta Goswami is saying, Atharvangirasam asit sumantur daruno munihi. So, darunaha means seriously devoted. So, Atharva Veda was given in charge to Angira Muni, Angira Rishi. And he is also known as Sumantu, that is another name of Angira Rishi. And he was Daruno Munihi. He was a great sage who was seriously devoted to the Atharva Veda. Mention of Angira Muni comes in the sixth canto of Bhagavatam in the pastime of Maharaj Chitraketu. So it was Maharaj Chitraketu who blessed the childless, it was Angira Rishi who blessed Maharaj Chitraketu, who was childless, to get a child who would be the cause of both Harsha and Shoka, the cause of both jubilation and lamentation. So that led to Maharaj Chitraketu eventually becoming a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. So through the instructions of Angira Rishi and Narad Muni. So that is the same Angira Rishi who is mentioned in the sixth canto of Bhagavatam. So he was also one of the principal disciples of Vyasadeva, and he was given in charge of the Atharva Veda. And then it is said, Itihasa Purananam Pitame Roma Harshanaha. So since these verses are spoken by Suta Goswami, he is telling Pitame, my father, Pitame Roma Harshanaha, my father, Roma Harshana Suta, was given in charge of the Itihasas and the Puranas. That is Mahabharata, Ramayana, and the Puranas, the 18 Puranas, were given to Roma Harshana Suta. We discussed about Roma Harshana yesterday briefly. Roma Harshana was the disciple of Vyasadeva who was actually given in charge, even though he was not born in a pure Brahmana family, but he was actually given in charge of propagating the Mahabharata and the Puranas. So therefore, he was also known as Puranika. Puranika means one who propagates the Puranas, who recites the Puranas and explains the meanings of the Puranas to the common people. So he is Roma Harshana. In some texts, his name is also mentioned as Loma Harshana. So Ra or Rakara and Lakara, sometimes they are interchanged. So his name is Roma Harshana, and he's the father of Suta Goswami, whom we are currently, about whose instructions to the sages of Naimisharanya we are currently reading in this section of Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada also says in the purport that the Shruti mantras, the Vedas, also say that Angira Muni strictly followed the rigid principles of the Atharva Veda, and he was the leader of the followers of Atharva Veda. So later on, all these different sages, they propagated all these Vedas, Puranas, and the historical records, the Itihasas. That is explained in the next shloka. Let us see that. Text 23. ऋषयो वेदं व्यस्यन् अनेकदा शिष्यै प्रशिष्यैस्तच्छिष्यैः वेदास्ते शाखिनो भवन्. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation, Suta Goswami continued, all these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples, and thus the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The original source of knowledge is the Vedas. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They have simply been developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge, broken into different branches by different disciplic successions, has been distributed all over the world. No one, therefore, can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So here it is said, Tayeta Rushayo Vedam. Taeta means all these different great scholars, Rishayaha, learned scholars, Vedam, their respective Vedas, Swam Swam Vyasyan Anekadha. In their own entrusted matters, they rendered these Vedas into many. That means they divided the four Vedas further into different branches and entrusted those different branches to their Shishyaihi, Prashishyaihi, Tashishhyaihi, to their disciples. Shishyaihi means to their immediate disciples. Prashishyahi means their grand disciples, that means disciples of their disciples. And Tashishyahi means the disciples of their grand disciples, that is great grand disciples. Vedate Shakhina Abhavan. In this way, they all became Veda Shakhinaha, different branches. They all became the followers of different branches of the Vedas. So even today, among the Orthodox Brahmana community, they say that we are followers of Rig Veda, we are followers of Yajur Veda, we are followers of Sama Veda, like that they say. So even though they're all followers of the Vedas, but they adhere to different rituals as is propagated in the disciplic succession through these different scholars who were actually the disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples of Srila Vyasadeva. So the ritual part may be little different. For example, in the Rig Veda rituals, there is no much emphasis for performance of fire yajna. There is more emphasis for chanting of the mantras and offering of prayers. Whereas the Yajurveda Brahmanas, there is more emphasis for performance of yajna. Whether it is a auspicious ceremony like a marriage or a housewarming ceremony, or whether it is a Shraddha ceremony pertaining to the worship of the forefathers, in all these rituals, the Yajurveda Brahmanas, they follow the process of fire sacrifice. So fire sacrifice is more adhered to in the Yajurveda Sampradaya. But these are all only technical details that is not so important for us. But what is important for us to note is uh, Vyasadeva thought that unless there are different sages who are empowered and specifically entrusted with the responsibility of studying and propagating the different Vedas, in Kali Yuga it will become difficult to propagate the Vedas. So Vyasadeva foresaw this. Therefore, he asked each of his disciples to become specialized in one particular Veda or one particular division of Vedic literatures like Puranas, Itihasas, etc. And in that way, the knowledge was systematically carried forward through the Avarohana Pantha, uh, that is, through the disciplic succession or the process of descending knowledge. So, one more important point that Prabhupada is mentioning here is there are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They've simply been developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. So, one important point to note is there is no branch of knowledge in this world which either material or spiritual which does not belong to the Vedas. That means Vedas is a storehouse of knowledge. It has everything and anything under the sky. Now, in the modern days, there is a systematic attempt made by some envious so-called liberal leaders, especially in South India, especially in the Tamil Nadu state. From many decades, there have been some, so-called leaders who have no understanding about the Vedas, who simply say that these Vedas were imposed upon the South Indians by the North Indians. And they say these North Indians are also originally not the inhabitants of India. These Aryans have migrated from Central Asia and they have settled down in the Indo-Gangetic plain in India, and from there they developed the Vedas, and then they came. So the original inhabitants, the Dravidians, were originally inhabiting in North India, according to their theory, and these Aryans, they have driven away the Dravidians down south. This is their conspiracy theory. In fact, it has been now proven that the Aryan invasion theory is a myth. It is not a fact. The Aryans means it is not some community. The Aryan is not a particular community. Aryan, Arya, means one who knows the progressive values of life. One whose civilization is based on the Varnashrama system, one whose civilization is based on the Vedic knowledge. He is called Arya. So a Arya is not some community. It is not some sectarian idea. Anybody can be Arya if he follows the knowledge given in the Vedas and leads a spiritual way of life. So this Aryan versus Dravidian drift, it was a conspiracy by the so-called leaders who are none other than the politicians with vested interests. So even today, unfortunately, there is this kind of an idea which is propagated saying that Rama and Krishna, they're all North Indian gods. They have nothing to do with the South Indians. So these Hindu festivals are all impositions of the North India. This kind of an idea has been, unfortunately, for political interests, these people, these so-called leaders, they have been propagating. But they do not understand that you may say that Krishna and Rama, they appeared in North India, but all the great acharyas, they appeared in the South India. Sripada Ramanujacharya, Sripada Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, all of these great acharyas, they appeared in South India and they adhered to the Vedic knowledge. They showed by their personal example. Even Sripada Shankaracharya also is from South India. So they showed by their personal behavior, by their personal realization, that Vedic knowledge is beyond the north south divide. It is transcendental knowledge. Anybody can follow this and they can see positivity in their lives. They can see spiritual liberation by following the Vedic knowledge. So, Prabhupada is saying there is no knowledge, either material or spiritual, which does not belong to the original text of the Vedas. Now, this is a very, very strong statement. This talks volumes about the greatness of the Vedas. In fact, great Western philosophers also have studied the Vedas and they have accepted this fact. They're saying that the Vedic knowledge and Vedic lifestyle, the Vedic culture is something, you know, not possible to be created by ordinary people of this world. And as I said, that is why the Vedas are called Apaurusheya Grantha. You will also see in the Vedas all everything that is required for a person to live in this material world. All branches of knowledge, whether it is medicine, whether it is engineering, whether it is farming, knowledge about farming, at what season, what kind of crops should be grown, what kind of irrigation methodologies have to be followed, and all this is ultimately linked to the Adidaiva. The beauty of the Vedas is the Adibhautika and the Adidaivika have been linked very nicely. So if you want to get good rains, then there is a Adidaiva for that. There is a Devata called Indra who is in charge of the rains. And there are verses glorifying Indra. The Brihat Sama Veda contains thousands of verses glorifying Indra as the bestower of rain and the bestower of prosperity. So the point is, the Vedic knowledge gives us not only perspectives about the phenomenal world that we are able to see in this world with our naked eyes, but it also talks about the knowledge beyond this phenomenal world, the noumenal science, or uh, the knowledge which is beyond our material grasp of the senses. So you will find in the Vedas knowledge about metallurgy. You will also find uh, knowledge about carving, sculptures, about pottery, about various fields of knowledge. All this, everything that is required for human beings to thrive in this world. Astrology, astronomy is also there in the Vedas. And you will also find the spiritual knowledge called Brahma Vidya, the knowledge pertaining to the spirit soul, knowledge pertaining to the supreme soul. All these are given in the Vedas. So, therefore, here it is said that there is nothing in this world under the sky which cannot be found in the Vedas. So, that is the greatness of the Vedas. So, there has been an attempt made by um, some people again with vested interest. They say that the Vedas are only meant for the Brahmanas. So, Veda means the Brahmanas learn this knowledge and they try to dominate the other classes of people. And all of us have been, deprived of this status. They have been continuously harassing the lower classes of people. No, that is never the case. In the Vedas, you will find that all the Varnas have a divine origin. It is not said that only Brahmanas have a divine origin, whereas the Shudras have no connection with the divine. No. In the Purusha Sukta mantras of Yajurveda, you will find this, that the Brahmanas were created from the head of the Purusha, the supreme Virat Purusha, the supreme Lord. And The Kshatriyas came from the arms of the Purusha. The Vaishyas came from the belly, and the Shudras came from the legs of the Purusha. So, Purusha means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, one has to understand. Oh, people think, see, they are saying Shudras are coming from the legs of the Supreme Purusha. That means legs have a lesser position compared to the head. No, but we see for the Supreme Lord, you know, there is no difference between the head, the belly, the arms, and the legs because his body is transcendental. This has to be understood. In fact, more emphasis is given on worshipping and serving the lotus feet of the Lord because the lotus feet of the Lord is non different from the Lord himself. So, these kinds of wrong interpretations are given by the so called scholars, learned people, liberals, just to misguide the innocent people, just to create a divide in the society, and to instigate violence, to instigate hatredness towards the Vedic society, Vedic understanding. So that is the nature of Kali Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, the people, the demons, they by misinterpreting the Vedas, they increase the hatred, violence, and quarrel in the society. So the Vedas, which is supposed to unite all of us under the umbrella of God consciousness, that is being misinterpreted by the so-called demoniac scholars. And that is why, we should be very careful not to hear the wrong, the apasampradaya, the demoniac interpretations of so-called great scholars. One may be a great scholar, but if one is not a devotee, if one is not a bona fide acharya belonging to the bona fide parampara, all his interpretations will simply lead to chaos and confusion. Therefore, one has to avoid hearing explanations by such non bona fide personalities. So, no one can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. So, that is a conclusion of Prabhupada's purport. So, every knowledge is present in the Vedas. There is nothing which is beyond the Vedas. Now, many times when we say this, people think that it is simply a sentimental statement. Oh, today we are able to see so much advancement in science and technology. All this was not there in the Vedic period. So, how can you say that the Vedic knowledge is superior to the modern science? So, the point is yes, modern science has made so much of advancement in gross technology. There is no doubt about it. But you will also find in the same Vedic texts a superior description of a superior technology which is not known to today's man. For example, you will find Vimana Shastra, one of the parts of the Vedic scriptures, where there is an elaborate description about different kinds of Vimanas or flying uh, planes, the flights, and different kinds of Vimanas using different kinds of fuels. Some Vimanas flew without any fuels on the power of mantra, now on the power of spiritual strength. Now, all this appears to be fairy tale to us because we are not able to perceive it or realize it in our present day life. But that does not mean these are simply fairy tales. For instance, if you speak about mobile phone, if you happen to speak about mobile technology, some say 60 or 100 years back, so people at that time would have thought that it is a fairy tale. It would have been hard to imagine for them that it is possible that with a small gadget in hand, you can connect to a person in any remote corner of the world and speak to him real time, seeing him, seeing his face. So this was unimaginable technology some 100 years ago or even some 50, 60 years ago. But today it is a fact. Today it is realized. Today we are able to see it. Every one of us are using it. So therefore for us it has become a very common knowledge. So in the same way, since the material world goes through cycles of creation and destruction, it is not difficult for us to believe that there was a superior kind of technology in the bygone ages, which is currently lost now, which we do not know. Even though text is available in the Vedas, we do not know how to actually implement it in real life. So simply thinking that these were all really fairy tales, that only shows the immaturity on the part of the present generation. So therefore, we should be very careful when we make such statements. So it is not some sentimental statements that are made by the adherents of Vedic philosophy, Vedic followers, but these are real facts. But it may not be, we may not be in a position to realize these things, implement these things in our uh, current times, but we should not simply wash our hands saying that it is all simply fairy tale. So that's not the understanding. You will see in the Bhagavatam also there is description of this. In the higher planetary systems, for example, Siddhaloka, there is a kind of planetary system called Siddhaloka, where by birth a person has yoga siddhis. One need not have to do any tapasya to gain those mystic powers. If somebody is born in Siddhaloka, if he is an inhabitant of Siddhaloka, by default he will have some mystic powers, like one can walk on water, or one can travel in the sky by airways without the medium of any airplane or any other gadget. Now, these are all mystic, these are all these appear to be fairy tale descriptions to us because we are like a frog in the well, and in the for the frog in the well, whatever is within the well, only that is reality. If somebody says beyond this well there is a big Atlantic Ocean or a Pacific Ocean, to that frog, the frog cannot understand. The frog will simply estimate the Pacific Ocean in terms of its limited understanding of the well itself. So it will say maybe Pacific Ocean is 10 times greater than this well, maybe 100 times greater than this well. So this is called the frog in the well logic. Kupa Manduka Nyaya, it is called. Kupa means well, Manduka means frog, Nyaya means logic. So the logic of the frog in the well. So we are all like that. So we should not have this kind of an approach, but we should actually understand that there are many, many things possible, and we are very, very limited in our understanding of this world, in our capacity to know things, to develop and create technology. We are very, very tiny. So therefore, Vedas are not simply speaking some fairy tales that we should understand. Okay, let's go to the next shloka, text 24. त एव वेदा दुर्मेधैर्धार्यन्ते पुरुषैर्यथा एवं चकार भगवान व्यास कृपणवत्सलः. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Sutta Goswami continued, thus the great sage Vyasadeva, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. Purport. The Veda is one, and the reasons for its divisions in many parts are explained herewith. The seed of all knowledge, or the Veda, is not a subject matter which can easily be understood by any ordinary man. There is a stricture that no one should try to learn the Vedas who is not a qualified Brahmana. This stricture has been wrongly interpreted in so many ways. A class of men who claim Brahmanical qualification simply by their birthright in the family of a Brahmana claim that the study of the Vedas is a monopoly of the Brahmana caste only. Another section of the people take this as an injustice to members of other castes who do not happen to take birth in a Brahmana family. But both of them are misguided. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. Persons who are in the modes of passion and ignorance are unable to understand the subject matter of the Vedas. The ultimate goal of Vedic knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This personality is very rarely understood by those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance. In the Satya Yuga, everyone was situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually, the mode of goodness declined during the Treta and Dwapara Yugas, and the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil. And so, for the general mass of people, the kind hearted, powerful sage Srila Vyasadeva divided the Vedas into various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent persons in the modes of passion and ignorance. It is explained in the next shloka as follows. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So, it is said here, Tayeva Veda Durmedhaihi. Durmedhaihi means the less intellectual people of Kali Yuga. This Veda, the book of knowledge, Dharyante Purushair Yatha. Dharyante means to assimilate. Dharyante can assimilate. Purushaihi by the man, by human beings. Yatha as much as. Evam thus. Chakara. Chakara edited or created, divided. Bhagavan Vyasaha. Bhagavan Vyasaha means the powerful great sage Vyasadeva. Kripana Vatsalaha, who is very kind to the ignorant mass of people. So here in the shloka, two things are mentioned. What was the mood of Vyasadeva when he divided the one Veda into many? And secondly, what was the purpose of this division? Two things are explained. The mood of Vyasadeva is described by the words Vyasaha Kripana Vatsalaha, one who is very, very compassionate, very kind to the misers, the Kripanas, who are opposite number of the Brahmanas. So Brahmanas are broad-minded. Brahmanas are those who are interested in knowing Brahmajnana. Brahmanas are those who are interested to make the best use of the human form of life by cultivating knowledge and eventually becoming a devotee of the Supreme Lord and thus going back to Godhead. So those who are interested in these activities, they are called as Brahmanas. And the opposite number, they are called Kripanas. As I had explained yesterday also, Kripana literally means a miser. A miser may have a lot of wealth, but neither will he put it to proper use for his own self, nor will he give it to others who are in need. So finally, the miser's gold will go in vain. Similarly, a human being who has got this golden opportunity of getting this human life, which can enable him to go back to the spiritual world, if he does not use this golden opportunity and simply engages in sense gratification like other animals, then he is called a Kripana. But Vyasadeva is described here as Kripana Vatsala. Vatsala means he is very compassionate, very kind. So he is very kind to the Kripanas who are not even interested in spiritual realization. Therefore, the mood of Vyasadeva is that his compassion. He knew that if the Vedas are presented as it is, they are very voluminous, they are very huge. Ordinary people may not be able to understand it. What to speak of ordinary people, even great scholars cannot understand it correctly. Therefore, he divided Chakara Bhagavan Rishihi. He divided the entire Vedas into many branches and sub branches through his parampara system. So that is the purpose. So the mood is compassion towards the fallen souls of Kali Yuga, and the purpose is to disseminate this knowledge to the common man who is Durmedaihi, who is less in his intellectual capacity. So that is the purpose. So Prabhupada is explaining here in the purport how there is misunderstanding uh, about the Vedas and the Brahmana understanding. In the Manusmriti, it is said, one who is not a Brahmana is not qualified to study the Vedas. One who is not a Brahmana should not even hear the Vedas. So strong statements are present in the Manusmriti. Now, what is the understanding behind it? Prabhupada is explaining here. The actual understanding is this Brahmana doesn't mean by birth, because the scriptures say Janmana Jayate Shudra Samskarat Bhaved Dvijaha. By birth, everybody is a Shudra or a person who laments unnecessarily. That is the definition of the word Shudra. One who does Shochana, one who always laments for insignificant things, for unnecessary things, such a person is called Shudra. So by default, everybody is a Shudra, a less intelligent person. But by proper training of samskaras, one can become a Brahmana, a twice born, a Dvija. So a person, one who gets trained by a bona fide spiritual master and leads a life based on knowledge, leads a sattvic life, keeping away the influences of Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Such a person is called Brahmana. And such a person, because of his sattvic lifestyle, sattvic habits, sattvic outlook, he will be able to understand the Vedas properly. With a Rajasic and Tamasic consciousness, one cannot understand the Vedas. Therefore, the Manusmriti forbids that those who are not Brahmanas should not hear the Vedas, should not study the Vedas. That is the understanding. It is not to say that a certain sect of the society, a certain class of the society only has birthright over Vedas. No, Vedas are knowledge. It is not property of any one single person or a single family or a single class. It is not like a property which can be inherited from the father to the son. There has to be proper uh, samskaras. Only then a person gets Veda Adhyayana uh, Yogyata. He gets the Yogyata means he gets the qualification to study the Vedas. And that Yogyata can be gained only when one becomes a disciple of a bona fide spiritual master and agrees to follow the instructions given by him strictly. So, but in Kali Yuga, this whole thing has been misrepresented, misinterpreted, misunderstood. So, what is happening? That people say, oh, these Brahmanas, they are claiming birthright over the Vedas. See how they have put down other classes of people. All other classes of people are only slaves. The Brahmanas have wantingly deprived the others of this Vedic knowledge so that they can lord over and control the others. Now, this is the kind of propagation that I was talking about. Previously also I was telling few minutes before in South India how this Dravida versus Arya narrative has been given by some people, some so-called leaders. That is all stemming from this misunderstanding only, right? So um, it is not birthright, and it is not that one section uh, is downtrodden. Later on, of course, in Kali Yuga Brahmanas are all not the real Brahmanas. In Kali Yuga, in the 12th canto of Bhagavatam, in the second chapter, it has been foretold what will be the standard of Kali Yuga Brahmanas. So there it is said that simply Vipratvam Sutram Evahi, it is said. Vipratvam Sutram Evahi. Sutra means a thread, secret thread. Simply by wearing a thread, sacred thread, one will claim that he has become a Vipra. Vipra means a learned Brahmana. He might have not, he doesn't know what is the ABCD of Vedas. But since he is born in a Brahmana family and he's going through a ritual of wearing the sacred thread, he claims himself to be a qualified Brahmana, and others also accept him to be so. That is a degraded state of affairs in Kali Yuga. But that's not the right understanding. So Prabhupada said our Krishna consciousness movement is actually meant to create first class Brahmanas in the society, not just by name, but in spirit. So Prabhupada actually has given us the process by following which anybody can be elevated from the Shudra platform to the Brahmana platform. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, emphasis is given on study of the Vedic scriptures, and not only scholarly study, but implementation of the Vedic knowledge in our daily life, following sattvic way of life and studying the Vedas, dedicating one's life for the purpose of propagating the Vedic knowledge. These are all the activities of the Brahmanas. So Prabhupada created this ISKCON society to actually create this spiritually surcharged intellectual class of people who can actually guide the others in the society. That is the purpose. So therefore, Prabhupada said There are so many colleges, institutions, so many universities all over the world with different departments. They're all propagating Shudra knowledge. They are making people, gain this so-called professional education so that they become industry fit, so that they can be employed in the industries and other companies. But nobody is interested in propagating the spiritual knowledge. Even if you go to the topmost university of the world, they are passing on as great scholars, but they don't know the basic fact that they are not the body, they are spirit soul. So, what is the use of all this kind of knowledge? Prabhupada said. Therefore, Prabhupada said, our institution, our movement, ISKCON movement, the Hare Krishna movement, is actually meant to specifically propagate this Brahma Vidya, the spiritual knowledge, Atma Vidya. And this is what makes a person truly educated. Uh, Simply having a degree from a university can help you earn a livelihood, can help you earn a good paying job. But what to do in your life after earning that good paying job, after earning your money, what is supposed to be done in the human life? So that people don't know. So they are indulging in bad habits because there is no proper training, and this is increasing the criminal propensities of people. So, because of all this, the civilization is going to dogs. But the knowledge that Prabhupada is giving us through this Hare Krishna movement, through his books, his teachings, it is actually meant to elevate us to the standard of human beings, and then to the standard of Brahmanas, and finally to the standard of Vaishnavas. So, a Vaishnava is the postgraduate stage of a Brahmana. So, Brahmana only knows Brahman, but a Vaishnava is one who has developed loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahmanya Deva, Vishnu or Krishna. So unless one comes to the stage of Vaishnava, one actually cannot realize one's eternal relationship with Krishna. So the ultimate goal of all this Vedic knowledge, as Krishna himself says, Vedaishta sarvaihi ahameva vedyaha. Understanding the Vedas is to understand Krishna, to become dedicated to Krishna, to his service, and to propagate his message to the people in general so that they can also attain the perfection of life. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement, which is actually Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, which is actually the innermost desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the desire of all the Goswamis of Vrindavan, which is the desire of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the desire of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our beloved spiritual master, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. It is doing the greatest welfare activity to the mankind by opening the eyes of the common people towards the goal of life. And this is being done simply by the process of chanting Hare Krishna mantra, propagating the holy name of the Lord. So we all are beneficiaries, we are all recipients of the great mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is flowing down in the Parampara system through Srila Prabhupada. Now we should not stop this flow of mercy by saying that I will chant the Hare Krishna mantra myself and I'll go back to Godhead. Let others go to hell. That should not be the mood. We should actually become preachers. All of us should become preachers. This is the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Amara Agnaya Guru Haya Tara Ye Desh. Yare Deko Tare Kaho Krishna Upadesh. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order. All of us should take up this Krishna consciousness wisdom very, very seriously. Bhagavatam should become our life and soul. We should learn Bhagavatam, apply in our life, become first class devotees, and also, side by side, help others to become devotees of Krishna. Then our life will become truly glorious. Each one of us can become glorious in the eyes of Krishna, in the eyes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the eyes of Srila Prabhupada, if we take up this preaching service very seriously. We should not say, oh, I am living outside the temple. I am a grihastha. I am not so matured. I don't know how to present. No, these are all excuses which are all very lame. Everybody who has received the Kripa of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if he is sincere, he will be directly empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He'll be empowered by Srila Prabhupada. All that we have to do is go out, repeat the words of Srila Prabhupada, distribute books of Srila Prabhupada, distribute Harinam on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. If we are sincere, Prabhupada can make miracles happen through us. It is very much possible. We can become an instrument in making someone a devotee of Krishna. And imagine what great service we are doing to that soul. Imagine how much Krishna will be pleased with us. So, therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement means not simply chanting and going back to Godhead. No. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotee means chanting and making others chant. So this we should never forget. That is the core of our movement. The essence of our movement is to preach. Therefore, I request all of you, in your own capacity, in your own circle, you should try to push this Krishna consciousness, inspire people to take up chanting, inspire people to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Just give Prabhupada's books in their hands, and Prabhupada will do the rest of the preaching. Who are we? We are not at all qualified. We are not pure. To the people. And Prabhupada will do the preaching. Prabhupada will do the miracle. So therefore, let us all take a firm vow that I shall chant myself, I shall become a fixed up devotee, and I shall reach out Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada's message to more and more souls. That is the only solution. That is the only solution to all miseries of people in this material world. So, with this mood, Vyasa Kripana Vatsalaha, when we are studying Bhagavatam, which is a result of Vyasa Deva's compassion, we should also adopt the mood of compassion of Vyasadeva. Vyasa Kripana Vatsala. Vyasadeva is immensely merciful towards the Kripanas. Now, we are also Kripanas. We have received the mercy of Vyasadeva through Srila Prabhupada. So, we also have to extend this mercy to more and more people. So, that is the actual meaning of studying Bhagavatam and being a devotee of Bhagavatam. So, we'll close here. Any questions or comments anyone has, quickly we can take up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I have one question, Prabhu. So today you discussed about this Sambandha Jnana, Abhidheya Jnana, and Prayojana Jnana.
Yes.
So the chanting standalone itself is able to achieve all this, means after attaining this, means all this progressing from Sambandha to Prayojana.
Yes.
Chanting standalone can also do the same thing?
Yes. Yes, definitely. Chanting alone can help us achieve all these three realizations. So, by chanting, you are establishing your sambandha with Krishna. By chanting itself is a abhidheya. It's a process to establish relationship with Krishna. The holy name of the Lord will reveal to us that we are eternal servants of Krishna. The holy name of the Lord will reveal to us our constitutional position. And the prayojana is by chanting the holy name, we will develop love of Krishna, which is the ultimate prayojana, the ultimate goal of human life. So all the three are possible, embedded in the process of chanting. So that means how seriously we must take the process of chanting. But Prabhupada has written these books to convince us how to develop conviction in chanting. So therefore we must study Prabhupada books. We should not say, oh, chanting alone is enough. It is a Yuga Dharma. It has all the three jnanas embedded in it. Therefore, I don't have to read and hear Bhagavatam. No, if that was the case, then Prabhupada wouldn't have written these books. So these books are meant to help us chant better. So yes, chanting alone as a standalone activity, it can give us all the three, Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojana. That's a very good question, Abhishek.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Is there any other question or any other comment by anybody? Okay, so we'll close the session. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Right.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.